Okay, now let's continue. You in New York. It's a little noisy around here.
Central Park.
So, Marco, now you, as a European, let's say, white person, teaching Japanese culture here in New York, not teaching, also performing. So, is there no dilemma that people say, "Hey, can you really do that?" From like a New York audience?
Well, not so much New York, but I think it's more, especially when you talk about, you want to present a show, and of course when people see like a non-Japanese, they always feel like, oh, is this really true? But sometimes it feels like they'd rather have a clueless Japanese doing taiko rather than somebody who's proficient in the instrument to play taiko. But I think New York is still a little clueless about what really taiko is, because there's so many amateur group, and then they do sort of if you bang on a taiko drum, you have 10 people, there's a lot of energy created, and for some people that's enough. But hopefully little by little also, like the West Coast, people will be able to differentiate the different styles of taiko. But that's one reason why I didn't put my name in the title of my group, like Marco Lienhard Taiko Drum or Marco Lienhard Shakuhachi Ensemble. So I use words and names so people sort of can't really track down, so it makes it also easier on the international level when you perform. Also in Europe it's the same. They want to see what they believe, what is true. Except for classical music, they'll see Yo-Yo Ma or perform classical music. But I think like in the 70s, I think there was also a stigma about Chinese playing classical music. They said, oh, it's too mechanical, or I sort of remember that time they were like, they're too technical, they don't have the heart. So I think that, it's on any level. So hopefully like in another 10 years, maybe when I'm really old, people will be more accepting. But when I learned, my teacher also at one point, he said, I never thought a foreigner would be able to get to your level, to be able to understand what you. So, being told that was also sort of rewarding, nice to hear. And so Yokoyama Katsuya also said at one point, now your goal in life is to pass on what I taught you, to give it to people around the world and keep on teaching that. And even if you teach one person one lesson, you always feel responsible. You are responsible for that teaching, for your life. Whatever they do, in wrong or bad, you always have that responsibility of having taught something to that person.
And now, as a musician here in New York, everybody's struggling here, as you know.
Right.
So how is it?
Well, I believe, I moved to New York, but I do some shows in New York. New York is a little special because people tend to overexpose themselves, and then people are not going to come. They can't come every week. It's a limited city. It's not really for the tourists. It's not like Broadway, and so we do usually one show a year in New York, and then we mostly do either colleges or concert series. We're mostly outside of New York, although I'm based in New York. But so I believe, it's good to do some shows like community things. That's why we get some grants. But if you do over too many things, then it doesn't become profitable anymore. Or people will know about you and they'll take you on tour. But I don't think to be really like making money in New York unless you're a Broadway show, or it's sort of a little difficult, or you're working for an opera company that you get to pay. But my experience with that was, it felt like I was excited to be part of the opera. It was the Golden Pavilion was for the City Opera.
What opera?
It was they used shakuhachi in the opera, in the New York City Opera. It was by Mayuzumi Toshiro.
Yes.
And But I felt the orchestra was there as workers. It felt like they were just clocking, coming, and they clocked out. And during intermission, the moment the curtain went down, they would run downstairs and start playing poker. And then to the last moment, and then they would go back on stage and perform. And then when the review came, it said the shakuhachi was the best thing of the whole show, and the orchestra was under-rehearsed. So of course I wasn't very much liked, but I mean I had a very small part in it. But also it was due to the fact too that music was sort of atonal music, and shakuhachi was the only melodic part. So the critic probably sort of felt some relief there. But
So
I
which
mean,
means-
from experience from other like Broadway or talking to other musicians, it feels like, are they really enjoying what they're doing, or is it just a job? I mean, I still enjoy what I'm doing and I get excited about it, and I think that's the point of doing and wanting to share with people, even if you're playing a parking lot or if you're playing Carnegie Hall or Madison Square Garden. You try to pass on that, what sort of hit you the first time, and still be able to pass on that energy and that love that you had for the instrument, and that's the only way that people are going to hopefully understand and love the instrument. But I also came across a lot of sort of musicians that just make it for the money, and then sort of that brings sort of the art form down a little bit. It just doesn't really pass on what it really is. So I guess it's on every level. So there's some musicians who, I have some students that come for a couple of lessons, or they might have played before. They just want to learn one song, and then so they disappear. But you still feel responsible for them to, playing that song, whatever. And sometimes they give you a CD, and then you go like, "You recorded this?" I mean, it's sort of a little shocking at times, but so.
So do you call yourself really an independent musician, because you do?
I mean, that's all I do.
You produce, manufacture your CDs them yourself.
Produce.
So you have your own label.
Yes.
You do also your own distribution. I guess maybe with CD
with the
Baby
help,
or so.
Yeah, with different.
And you
outlets.
have your own booking company. I mean
East Winds, but under that there's a lot of agencies that sort of. We're
of
on the
course.
roster, yes.
So you are actually.
But I'm the nerval, the central sort of.
So you're the brain.
Right.
So you do everything by yourself.
Yes, I try to sort of pass it on, but then by a lot of failure, it just seems it's sometimes better. At that point, I mean, it's not too busy doing too many things, so I still, especially with the internet nowadays, it makes things much easier where you don't have to call all the time and only have from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock to be able to reach people. Now you can just, in the middle of the night, just send an email and that person will read it whenever.
Or Skype.
Right, and internationally too, it makes it easier. You
Yes.
don't have to think about 13 hours waking at 6 in the morning to make a call.
Right.
I mean, that still happens once in a while, but...
Good. Now you got some CDs.
So the first group I was with, this is called this. It's in Japanese, so probably you can't read. And it's called Ondekoza. And that was sort of the renaissance of taiko in Japan. That sort of really reset sort of the meaning of taiko. I mean, it made taiko popular, though there were other taiko groups, but none of them reached that level. And then I created my own group, so in New York, again, Taikoza. And that name actually comes from the same name, Ondekoza. Where is it? I don't know, probably you don't read Japanese.
No.
But if you take that away, that's this big character means Oni, which is a demon. So I took the demon out and it became Taikoza. That's what the name comes from. So I took the demon out of Taikoza.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if it was a good idea, but... And then there's the shakuhachi, that's me as an Ondekoza player, but it's a 94. Looks like a bunny. That's what we wear. And that's another shakuhachi CD. I wrote some songs and I play the second voice and third voice.
And all these CDs are available, yeah?
They are on iTunes or cdbaby.com.
Okay,
That's music of Miyazaki, Hayao movies. rearranged for Shakuhachi and Koto, and there's a second one of that. I'm working on third and some of the CDs of classical, some with a piano, and some 1920s composer that I like.
Okay.
And then there's a concert coming up
Yeah, right. Go.
at the Manhattan Movement Arts Center.
Go.
The Manhattan Movement Arts Center, and that's May 4th and 5th at 8 p.m.
Good.
And you can buy tickets at taikoza.com.
Great.
taikoza.com.
Yeah, I will mention it in
Okay.
there. Good. And what is the goal of your next concert? What is really happening? Is it different from other concerts?
It will
Guest
be
appearance.
There's some
the
guests
music,
also. There's a koto player,
repertoire.
and then we have some new songs that we've been working on. And then there'll be some classical pieces, or classical, more like traditional pieces, rearranged by us. And there's a group from Hawaii called Hawaii Matsuri Taiko, and
The
they're
opening act.
we sort of blend them in the show, and some of them will perform also on the more sort of traditional pieces. And I've gone to Hawaii to teach on the islands for the last 4 years, and I've gone almost sometime twice a year, and sometime help with that group that's coming to visit. And so we've performed together quite a few times, and so this time I'm able to sort of bring them here and they're able to perform. So it'll be exciting, and it's a very slightly different style also that they do. It's more like Tokyo, sort of shitamachi, which is sort of the downtown. What would you call here? Sort of
The rural.
the village. No?
Yeah,
or
rural.
The Lower East Side.
Yes.
The Bowery taiko music is very sort of it's a more technical. It's more like tempo based. I mean, it's a very different style, but hopefully everybody will enjoy it.
Good.
I think they will.
Something else. I mean, you know that I like improvisation.
Yes.
So how do you is improvisation happening in your music, and would you like to play
yes,
it
actually,
with?
I mean, there's always themes, and whenever there's one person soloing, they're let free. Of course, there's a set sort of pattern they have to sort of stay in within each song, and within that sort of you can improvise and you can play around. So there's a lot of.
Is
Sometimes they call
improvisation,
taiko
but is
jazz,
improvisation important for you in your music? Like
well, I think it is, yeah. I mean, to certain part you play, because every day it's always a little different. It's never sort of exactly the same show. You know, even you have a score, we never play according to the score. So there's always like a day, like I play the solo, I will play it a little differently. I will like make one segment longer, or like. So it changes a little bit. It makes it more alive, you know, it's a live music. And some of the traditional music though is very set, but even, you know, the breathing is part of the what do you call it? It's part of the rhythm of within the song, and so of course everybody's breathing is a little longer, shorter, different, and that sets sort of the music.
Right. Have you played? Because now in New York, with other music styles, with other musicians of other genres like jazz, rock, heavy metal.
Jazz, with some jazz flutists and sax or drummers, and so tried different things. Yes, indeed, even rock and punk or all
Punk?
kinds of or some.
Do you know what punk is, Marco?
Yeah, sort of. I mean, when I just played along. I'm not sure if I did punk, but tried different things, yes. Though.
So you're not like many classical musicians, like in Iran or India or Japan,
Where they
say,
just totally
right,
turn on. No.
Right.
I mean, my teacher was pretty open too, and I think, I mean, you know, I'm open to anything. I do a lot of concerts for new composers, and try to perform whatever they write. I mean, sometimes it's challenging and sometimes impossible, and they have to change a little bit. But so I'm always up for the challenge to try something new. And
you're also a
you
composer, right?
I compose too, yes. So for Taikoza and for my group.
No, also for anime.
Not for anime.
What was it?
That was just a book for children that they needed some music for some of an old folk song. folk tale. They wanted to add some music to it, so I created some music. Also, I added a soundtrack to a silent movie, of all things.
Really?
They released Milestone Films released a silent movie from Hollywood. It was a famous Hollywood actor of silent
Right.
movie, director, and so when they released it, they wanted some Japanese music, so I put the music for an hour with shakuhachi, fu, and taiko.
Good. So I think so. We got everything together. So
Okay.
I think now everybody
Would
should
like to
know
listen.
who you are.
Yes.
Hopefully they come to your concert in
I
May.
hope so too.
And
Or
hopefully.
look at the taikoza.com for other performances
Sure.
if you're in other parts of the world or
Okay.
the US. We do travel a lot, so be in Japan in June, so
Good.
in Tokyo, Hiroshima, and Atami.
Good. Thank you.